Hello dear students, today we'll be learning about relative clauses lesson 19. What is a relative clause? It is a subordinate clause. Remember, it is a dependent clause that gives us specific or we can say the important information about the person or thing we are talking about in the main clause. It talks about the information about the person we are talking in the main clause. It defines or identifies the noun that comes before it. It defines the noun that is coming before it. See the example. The painting which was made by Da Vinci was on display at the museum. It is defining the painting which was made by Da Vinci. It is the relative clause and it is defining what? The painting. She loves the bag which her mother had gifted her. Which bag? Which her mother had gifted her. It is defining the noun, the bag. A relative clause is introduced by a relative pronoun like who, which, what, whose, whom and that. Some relative pronouns are there and relative clause is introduced by these relative pronouns that are given here and also with relative adverb like why, when and where. Relative clauses are a type of adjective clause. This is important point. These are the type of adjective clause which modifies the noun. Uses of relative pronouns and adverbs in relative clauses. Some relative pronouns and adverbs in relative clauses are given. We will be discussing them one by one. We use who in a relative clause when we are talking about a person and not a thing. When we are talking about a person, then with that we are using who. See the examples. Do you know the lady who transports excess food from wedding venues to orphanages? So lady is a person and for that we have used who. A man who was helping the fishermen anchor their boats rescued the drowning child. So which man who was helping the fishermen? Like this also the next example has been given. Next is which and that. We use which or that in relative clause when we refer to a thing instead of a person. For person we are using who, but for things we are using which and that. Examples: I am looking for the book which was kept on the coffee table. So book which was kept on the coffee table. Sapling which is said to have medicinal properties. We could not eat anything that the new chef made for us. So like this we are using which and that for the things. Next is what. We sometimes use what instead of that as the relative pronoun. In some places we are using what in place of that as a relative pronoun. See, I apologize for what I said earlier. That which I said earlier is not used here. In place of that we have used what. We must be particular about what we wear to the formal dinner. That which we wear to the formal dinner can be used, but here we have used what in place of that. Next is whose. We use whose to show possession. When we want to show the belongingness, that time we use whose. It is used in place of his, her or their. It is followed by a noun. It is followed by a noun. Before it, a noun is there. The principal spoke to the lady whose son had been injured. So, it is followed by a noun that is given here. Our sports teacher congratulated the gentleman whose son was selected for the state cricket team. Gentleman whose son was selected for the state cricket team. Now, whom. Whom is used to refer to a noun or a pronoun which acts as the object in the sentence. Remember, it acts as object, not the subject. It is used in place of him, her or them. So see the examples. It is acting as object in the sentence. The doctor whom we want to consult. So this is what? It is acting as an object. The stranger to whom we gave the parcel. It is also used or acting as object in the sentence. Now where. A relative clause may be introduced with the relative adverbs when, where and why to talk about time, place and reason. For time when, for place where and for reason why. We use when in sentences where the noun refers to time. that is year, month or day. We use where when the noun refers to a place, and why when it refers to a particular reasons. So for that only the examples have been given. My mother remembers the days when she and her friends would gather at neighbor's house to watch TV. Can you suggest a shop where I can get second-hand musical instruments? I know the reason why there is none of the usual traffic on the streets today. So here it refers to time, here it refers to place, and here it refers to reason. Then omission of relative pronouns, where we can omit the relative pronouns when whom, which, that is not the subject of the clause. When whom, which and that, they are not the subject of the clause. We know that subject is there in the clause, and when these three words are not the subject of the clause, then we can omit them. Examples: is this the child you were talking about? We have omitted whom. The boy we wanted to meet has gone home with his father. The man you spoke of is a great poet and writer. So in all these examples we have omitted them because they are not the subject in the clause. For that purpose only they have given one watch out corner. Let's see what they are saying here. When who, which or that is the subject of the verb of the dependent clause, it cannot be omitted. When they are the subject of the verb of the dependent clause, then we cannot skip them. I have lost the pen drive which had my favorite songs. So it was the subject of the verb, so we cannot skip them. We have to write. The first is correct and the second way is wrong. Position of prepositions in relative clauses. In informal writing, the preposition comes after the verb. Whenever we are writing informal writing, then preposition comes after the verb. In formal writing, the preposition is placed before the relative pronoun which or that. You can see here. This is the house Tagore lived in. Here, preposition is after the verb, after lived, so it is informal writing. This is the house in which Tagore lived. Here preposition is placed before relative pronoun, so it is formal writing. Students, now we'll be discussing about the last topic of this lesson, defining and non-defining relative clauses. A defining relative clause gives us essential or important information about the noun we are talking about. It gives us important information about the noun. It is the clause on which the sentence depends for completing its meaning. Sentence is depended on the defining relative clause to complete the meaning. Changing the clause changes the meaning of the sentence completely. If we are changing the clause, then the meaning of the sentence will also be changed. A defining relative clause usually comes immediately after the noun. So defining relative clause comes immediately after the noun. If you see these examples, I know a person who can help you find that book. I know a person. It is a sentence, and if we are writing it without this defining relative clause, then it will be incomplete. So it is providing important information about the noun a person. The sentence is dependent on defining relative clause. Basically, we can say that it is defining the person. So it is defining relative clause. We wish to live in a place which is not too far away from the sea. Which place? This is the important piece of information. Which is not too far away from the sea. The sentence is dependent on defining relative clause. I bought the book. Which book? That was recommended by our chemistry teacher. So basically, the relative clauses, defining relative clauses are giving us important information about the noun we are talking about in the sentence. We can say that without defining relative clauses, the sentences are incomplete. Next is a non-defining relative clause. They gives us extra information about a person or thing. Mark my words, students. Defining relative clause gives us important information, but non-defining relative clauses, they give only the extra information about a person or thing. We already know which person or thing is being referred to, and the sentence continues to make sense without it. So basically they are giving only the extra information. The sentence is not dependent on non-defining relative clause. But in defining relative clause, sentences are dependent on them. Here, if you see, they are independent. Sentences are independent. I am going to meet Sanjay. I already know Sanjay. Sanjay does not need extra information, or I can say that important information. I already know Sanjay. But here, who helped me with the hotel bookings, it is providing only the extra information. We can say that non-defining relative clauses, they are just the extra information. Sentences are not dependent on non-defining relative clause. We stayed at Nature's Nest. Nature's Nest, familiar with this, which is an idyllic seaside resort. It is only extra information. She is playing her order with Big Grocers, which sells organic food products. Only extra information. So non-defining relative clauses gives only extra information. Sentences are not dependent on them. Students, for your knowledge, I have given this difference in this way so that you can understand it more clearly. For defining and non-defining relative clauses. Defining relative clauses, it gives essential, or we can say important information about the noun, and non-defining, it gives only the extra information. Here in defining, noun is not known. Noun is not known. That is why we are in need of defining relative clauses, so that we can get the information about the noun. Here in non-defining, noun is known to us. Sentence is dependent on it to complete the meaning. In defining relative clauses, sentence is dependent on it so that the meaning gets completed. And here in non-defining, sentence is not dependent on it, as it is only extra information. Here in defining, noun is not separated with comma. We are not having the separation of noun and the clauses. Okay, but in non-defining, noun is separated with the help of comma. I have given one more example apart from your book. The boy who helped you has come today. Boy is a noun, and who helped you? Which boy we don't know. Noun is not known to us. Who helped you? It is important information. Has come today. So boy is a noun, and who helped you? It is defining relative clause. The example of non-defining is Raj, comma, see. Here we were not having the comma after the noun, but here in non-defining we are having the comma. Raj, who is a good singer. We are already familiar with Raj. It is only the extra information. Raj, who is a good singer, will sign today for concert. Okay, so this is the difference. I hope you have understood the concept. Thank you. Goodbye. God bless you all.